Joining us, welcome into our devotion time today here on Morning Moments with Jesus. Last couple of days we have been talking quite a bit about self-worth, self-control. This morning the Lord takes us to a subject about self-confidence. Philippians chapter 1 and verse number 6, Paul writes to the Philippians, and he says this, which should give us a lot of confidence this morning, because he says, being confident of this very thing, that he which hath begun a good work in you will perform it until the day of Jesus Christ. Have you ever looked in the mirror and wondered if you're enough, if you're just strong enough, if you're smart enough, if you're capable enough? Maybe you didn't look in the mirror, but maybe you thought about that as you approached a new job or a new relationship or a new situation. Am I strong enough? Am I capable enough for the things that are going on in my life? We all have moments where we feel like we're not measuring up. The weight of insecurity and struggles, they try to whisper into our ear, you can't do this, you're too weak, you'll never change. But let me tell you something this morning that's very beautiful and very liberating. That voice is a lie, and it does not come from God. Because you see, God doesn't speak hopelessness. He does come into our hearts to give us strength. He never comes to belittle us. His words bring life. His truth builds us up, not tears us down, and His Spirit within us is the very reason we can rise in the first place with boldness and walk with confidence, even when everything around us feels shaky, chaotic, and uncertain. See, this kind of confidence, I'm learning this every day of my life, just trying to get stronger and stronger and closer to the Lord. But this kind of confidence that God offers, it isn't puffed up pride or pretending to have it all together. See, it's something deeper than that. It's self-confidence from the inside out. It's the quiet strength that comes from knowing Christ lives in you, and He is at work in your life every moment of every day of your life. That's why Paul writes to the Philippians, and he says, being confident of this very thing. See, the word confident, that isn't a casual assurance. That's bold trust. Paul isn't saying, I hope God finishes what He started in you. He says, I know He will. That means it's settled already. And if Paul could have that kind of confidence about what God was doing in the early believers, then I believe we can have the same confidence of what God is doing in our lives today. But you have to understand this, the confidence is not in yourself. It's in Christ in you. That's the key. Because see, we live in a culture that constantly begins to shout into our belief system. Believe in yourself. And while there's some truth to having a healthy view of yourself, not saying there's not, it's easy to fall into one of two traps. Either we begin to think too much of ourselves and we become too self-reliant, or we think too little of ourselves and we become discouraged. So trying to be self-confident in your own power will work for you or against you, but most of the time it will work against you. But see, God offers a better way. What He says is, I want you to believe in the one inside of you. Think about that. If Jesus lives in your heart, the same Spirit that raised Him from the dead now lives in you. That's no small thing. You're not trying to overcome temptation, fear, or failure in your own strength. You're overcoming it day by day with the very presence of God dwelling inside of you. Because that truth changes everything if you get it and believe it and start living it. Because when you start living from that truth, from the inside out instead of the outside in, you don't have to manufacture confidence. You don't have to fake it till you make it. You simply rest in the reality that God is working in you, shaping you, strengthening you, and that He will finish what He started. Let's be honest, life gets messy sometimes. We all have struggles. Some days we feel like we're winning. Some days we feel like we're taking a step back to square one. But your struggles doesn't disqualify you from confidence, because it's the very place where God's power shines the brightest sometimes. You remember in 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse number 9, he reminds us of this. His strength is made perfect, how? In our weakness. That's not a permission to slip into a position of staying stuck where you are. It's an invitation to stop pretending that you're okay when you're not, and to let God meet you in your weakness. He isn't surprised by the broken pieces in your life. In fact, those are the areas where His love tends to show up the most vividly in our lives and work in the most powerful and miraculous ways, is when we begin to be honest with Him about the broken fragments and pieces in our lives. And that confidence isn't based on a feeling. It's based on a promise. Because listen, the more you know Him, the more you will know who you are in Him. You have got to start letting the inside of you speak louder than the outside of you. Because there's a lot in this world that tries to define us from the outside. Our past, our performance, other people's opinions, even our own critical thoughts. But God doesn't define us from the outside in. He transforms us from the inside out. So today, I want you to be safe, be strong, and be blessed. And I want you to walk in confidence, not the kind that comes from having everything figured out, but the kind that comes from knowing the one who does have it all figured out. Let your heart be anchored in this one simple truth. He who has begun a good work in you is faithful to complete that work. You just have to trust the process. So this morning, take a deep breath. You're not behind, and you're not abandoned. You're right where God needs you to be to transform you from the inside out.